are now shipping to surrounding islands. Let's head into the K-Wave News Link Zoom room, Sabrina, where we have our good buddy Shawn Gumataotao standing by. Well, he does a lot of stuff, wore a lot of hats. This morning he's coming on as the voice behind the That's It, That's All podcast. Shawn, good morning.
Hey, good morning and hot day, and welcome back, Sabrina. The adult supervision has returned.
You have no idea how accurate that is, Bruce. Me and Jay were just like going all around. Anyway.
How you doing, Shawn?
Absolutely fantastic on this Friday morning. So good morning to you guys, and good morning to all the listeners and the viewers all over the globe listening to the link.
Yeah, Shawn, I know you got a new episode of the That's It, That's All podcast, but I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't ask you about all these rumors. Actually, there's a media report this morning about your old boss, former Governor Felix Camacho, possibly considering a gubernatorial run. Shawn, have you heard anything?
I'm going to say yes. And interestingly enough, the hearing about it is pretty interesting. And I kind of want to draw your attention, all of your attentions back. It didn't seem like too long ago, after former Governor Carl Gutierrez left office, and people were trying to find a way to beat the Republicans and take over Adelup. The parties go to the people and the leaders that they believe could lead. And at this time in the party, looking at Republicans across the board, there are plenty of folks that can maybe do it. It's an interesting tale that my former boss is being thrown in that mix. And I read a bit of the news article this morning. It is not really official until it's official. And so at this point, it does stir the pot for the 2022 election cycle. Makes it a little interesting on the Republican side, but it also throws Adelup into full policy mode. Because if you saw this past week, and I do mean this past week with the governor being at the winter meetings, as you guys know, the winter meetings of the National Governors Association is the single largest policy, federal policy, I guess, hit for the administration that they're going to see. Notice that we have not heard, we saw a budget submission, but we have not heard a State of the Island address, which I think is pretty curious considering we've tried to always, at least in Governor Camacho's time, give it before going. But again, with everything that's happening, an announcement of a Republican to come and run just puts everybody on high alert.
Yeah, it sure does, Shawn.
Stay tuned.
Yes. So I know that there's nothing official. No packet has been picked up. And even if they did pick up a packet, it still wouldn't be official until we reach the filing date. But that doesn't have to stop us from speculating. So I just feel like when people think about who's going to run against Lou and Josh, the big part of the conversation is this, war chest that they have, the American Rescue Plan funding. And I know people have thought about running and then said, oh, well, how can we compete with Governor Lou if, she gives out a stimulus late in the game, closer to the election, and she's got all this money to do all these things. You're right. I mean, how big is that, and how tough does that make running against her?
It is absolutely a challenge. When you think about the cycle, which has already started, and then you're going into the primary, if the congressman decides to run and he'll say, I'm going to do all these things, the current governor can say, well, I'm already doing it. Then when it switches and now you're looking at it in totality, it's going to be what can the message be across the three major issues of health, safety, and education. Can that person challenging the incumbent governor, what can they possibly bring? And then the bonus would be, in her case, if there is some kind of, Benny that comes from all of this, then it will surely change the complexion for the final month and a half going into the general election. Is that job good enough, bad enough? Who knows? But I got helped out. So maybe the job's decent enough. I'm going to click another 4 years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be hot, and I wonder how much of a pivot it's going to force the administration to do. Because right now they're not really big on coming out and communicating, messaging, doing interviews across all platforms. I know they do a lot of like with this war claims thing. It's interesting to me as a member of the media that they share this link, but it's basically like watch us sign this bill, and you can't ask any questions. You know what I mean? And that's just like par for the course for this administration. They're not really transparent. They just don't respond. A lot of the communications is done through WhatsApp. You know, that being said, if we get a candidate who's going to run and who is going to be out here pounding the pavement, you know, knocking on all the media door and trying to get that earned coverage, do you see that kind of forcing the administration's hand and maybe Lou or Josh or any of their, you know, cavalcade of cabinet members having to go out more and engage with the media?
Yeah, let's think a little bit just a couple of years ago when we were talking about how Mike Nichols was able to pull off the big victory in his primary and general election from, well, one, not even being on Guam. He was in a hospital bed at some point, and then he was in the comfort of his home. And then all of a sudden, he wins. And I'm not saying that imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery here, but when we look at the way that they might be approaching it, I don't think they're looking at it the same way. I think they're looking at it just like the old-fashioned ground game. All the villages, get everybody ramped up, and let's get the word out, and let's go win another 4 years. That makes it even challenging for any challenger, either party or the other side, because then now they're going to have to rally. And not to mention, let's throw COVID in all of this and how all of this is playing out. I mean, I'm hoping that the Election Commission will reconsider some of the ways they did the election. It just doesn't seem to me that our community can do another round of this type of cycle. And I think I mentioned it before on one of the podcasts is, are we worried about, you know, low voter turnout again? And then if the governor gets reelected, somewhere in that 60% range again, and I'm not talking about a re-election or election, but if we elect the governor at the 60%, what are we going to do as a community to change our electoral process to ensure that we get more participation from our society? Because it's a concern to me, and I think we all should be really thinking about those kinds of reforms for elections.
I mean, right now I think it favors Lou and Josh because you're right. They're doing the ground game. They've been out campaigning for the duration of the pandemic. They've had the fundraisers, right? And so they're set. And I feel like if the election's held today, who's really going to go out and vote? It's going to be the all-in people because they have a stake in it. They're going to go out. They're going to, you know, I mean, a super typhoon Omicron, they'll be out there filling in the circle.
Yeah, and Chris, don't think I'm saying like we're a bunch of wah losers. It's over. Got time to pack it up.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. It's just that they are way ahead of anyone that's going to challenge them. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. It's a political office running for re-election. They have to show with the progress they made over the past 4 years to every constituent. Now, we can go down the list of the different things that we think that they may or may not be doing well, but they are campaigning. They are wanting to retain that office. And there's a lot to be said, especially in this cycle, as you know. But one thing we're not seeing, Chris and Sabrina and Jason, is we're not seeing, this flood of people to run for senator, because that one has got me confused. If the governor is so far ahead, why aren't members of their party, doing the same? And I think that last count, 17 people have picked up packets.
Yeah.
Pretty small, or 16.
Yeah. Wow. What about record to record, Shawn? I mean, I know Lou's still in it, but when we compare the record, we got 2 terms of former Governor Felix Camacho compared with this one pandemic-y kind of like, I mean, also never seen this level of federal funding before. It's pretty historic. But just record to record, how do they kind of match up for you?
If that is the case, if that's going to run, yes. I mean, from a guy who's been part of the other side of that, I would say that one, on the education side, a guy built schools. He didn't build 1. He didn't build 2. He built, maybe 3 schools. He also infused a lot of money into public safety. And he thought about crime and the difference between crime then and crime today. You could draw a big contrast. Then you have, what else we have? Health. He's the guy that shepherded back accreditation. And guess who was on the board? And he had some help from Governor Liu. I'm not going to lie to you. Governor Liu was on the board of the GMH at the time and helped shepherd it all in. So it's not like, it's how did you support the response? And then what would be the plan to move forward? I think, but the biggest one for me, Chris and Sabrina, and perhaps Jay, is the economy. Is what will be that to me, as a small business owner, I am concerned of the direction of our economy and how the next 4 years will look, and the kind of resources that will be needed to train our people, to provide better opportunities, and bring back tourism. You've had Mary Rhodes on this show. You've had Uncle Carl. Everyone's saying we've got to bring back tourism, and then pivot to diversification of the economy. Both parties need to be able to tell that story and effectively do it, so that the electorate can say, okay, I'm going to give this person a chance, or I'm going to give them the chance to continue. That's really the bottom line in this coming cycle.
Yeah, and your latest episode of your podcast, Shawn, that's it. That's all. You kind of focus on the legislative race.
Oh yes,
Let's hear.
It was kind of listening to your guys' show the last couple of weeks, and then I thought about it like, okay, I've heard it all.
Yeah.
But now, and we talked about this in all the election night coverages and in all the programs ahead. And I thought maybe this might be the time to talk about what we think would be the best kind of person to lead our legislative branch of government.
All right, so we do have a clip. Shawn, if you stick around for just a couple minutes, we'll play this. It's the latest clip from the That's It, That's All podcast, another great podcast on the KUAM Podcast Network.
There is something that can be said for those men and women who served the Guam legislature over the years. The predecessor of the Guam Congress has surely come a long way from the days of advising Navy captains as more of an advisory board in the 1930s. By 1950, and the signing of Guam's Organic Act by then President Harry Truman, things were bound to take an aspirational trajectory. The 21 men that made up the first Guam legislature, captains of industry and giants of education, names that would later take higher office. Advising was still in play. Creating policy, though, was as important to the young experiment that was democracy. Fast forward 72 years. The body is reduced from 21 to 15 members. Women would be elected to the branch, with women to even lead it. A diverse bunch of citizens from different backgrounds and political philosophies. 7 decades have passed and values seem to have changed a bit. It's not hard to discuss the demise of the original political parties that drove the membership that is now the members of the current legislature. The talk can take up other podcasts. Talking with Isla Manumko recently, many this podcaster has spoken with are looking at the Guam Congress building with a different lens and perspective. They wonder where the insightful debate and collegiality have gone in recent years. Many have stopped watching the work of the Guam legislature, as they have said that recent bodies have just seemed to have forgotten the mission of the branch. They're not seeing a check on the power of the executive. They are reducing the effectiveness of the judicial branch and their interpretation of the laws of Guam. They are not seeing representation of the things that matter most for their respective villages.
And that's the new clip from That's It, That's All podcast. Pretty insightful stuff there, Shawn.
Having a lot of time to think about this particular podcast, it was, again, listening to the link. And I think that over the course of the next couple of months, and the coverage is going to ramp up for all of your listeners and viewers, so give an advance warning. Don't miss any part of the link. Okay, because I think that the discourse you're going to hear on this program is something you're not going to hear anywhere else. Secondly, and most importantly, is take in the information and then make a decision. And I think that it's going to be this a very kind of an important cycle in a sense that, we're coming off of a kind of a strange anomaly in the last election, and hoping that it's not a continuation of something that, will keep all of us talking and keeping us thinking, like, what's going on with our process, what's going on with our society, and why we are not being why we are not being as active as we used to be. I mean, I've always said that when we enjoyed that 70 and 80% mark in terms of turnout, it separated us from different parts of the American family, which today continue to struggle with voter turnout. Like the voter turnout that we saw the last one is pretty par for the course for places all over America. And we can't accept something like this as like, okay, we're just something normal. And yes, the presidential election brought out so much in different ways, a lot of people. But generally speaking, that's going to fall right back in the midterms in the states. And where are we going to be? 50%? And then we're going to ask ourselves and look at the representation of our elected officials and say, it only really reflects one or two people versus the whole of the society. And I think that's something we should be very concerned about. And we should continue to fight for it.
I remember when there were 21 senators, it kind of reminded me of the boy bands, how you had like, your smart one, and then you had the doctor senator, and then you had the policeman senator, it was like, it was definitely more representative. And now I almost feel like the parties just game the system. But I wanted to talk, Shawn, about what you said in there about the absence and the death of collegiality. And I think this started a few legislatures back. I want to say the last one of former Governor Eddie Calvo's term with Senator Regine Bisco-Lee. Definitely there was a lot of just like mean girl pettiness going on. And we've seen it even recently, right? I mean, not just with the pettiness, but we had the Republicans. I mean, they basically walked out. We had Senator Mary Torres covering her ears when Senator Joanne Brown was talking. I mean, the gaveling, the muting of senators with the Vice Speaker, Tina Munoz-Barnes, when she was the Speaker. I mean, it's gotten very, very, and maybe it is a reflection of what's going on in the community, but I'm just disappointed at how, you're right, it just seems like petty and divisive.
Yes, and Chris and Sabrina, the biggest thing for me as an analyst looking at this, I look at how that affects public policy. And some of the bills that are coming out, it's disappointing. I mean, we can just start at the basic mandate of the budget. And yes, it might have been a little bit more lean, but do we know what the priorities of our government are? And it's all these little things, and then they get up there, they're hitting the pan, right? Yeah, I got to make some noise, but then it only affects a few people. What about the greater good of the society and the community? Our kids, our healthcare workers, our frontliners. What about them? And how we have to think about also the economy and how small businesses are helped. Every time something happens, they're very fast, and there's so many ways to skin this cat. But I don't understand that the behavior. It's a turnoff. We used to turn it on, and used to listen to kind of understand. And the news sound bites used to be pretty significant. Today, you look at it and you're going like, our kids at Inarahan Middle School probably have way more couth than the 15 current elected lawmakers in the Guam legislature. They should go down to IMS and take a little bit of a listen. Those kids are way more respectful to people than say they are. So I'm just saying that you just got to understand there's got to be better interaction, better quality of bill, and for crying out loud, be more respectful.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Shawn. I'll let you get to
Shawn.
work. Yeah, appreciate it.
I didn't mean to insult the kids at IMS, but those kids are really damn stiff.
I don't know if they want to be compared to a bunch of politicians, Shawn.
They're actually some great kids in way better shape than a branch of government.
Right.
That's for damn sure.
I'll see you, Shawn Gumataotao. That's it. That's all podcast. Not really a mincer of words, Bree.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, definitely. And interesting with the legislature. I mean, that to me, that's outside of, we don't really have a clear picture of who's going to be running. against the incumbent administration. I think the real battleground is going to be the legislative race, right? As the Democrats, I hear there's a few who aren't running, and then I also heard there's a couple of Republicans who might not seek a re-election. So that's where they're really going to be fighting for that majority, right? 725. Bree's like, I'm not going to talk about the election.
Because I have a lot to say.
I know,
but mine isn't more focused. Is more focused toward Adelup.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I like that there's rumors now, because there was always rumors, and with the Republican Party, I don't know if it's desperation, but the rumors were last year was that former Governor Eddie Calvo was gonna run, right, and that just simply wasn't true. I mean, I ran into him a couple times. He was like, "No, I'm definitely not running." And so, who would the next big guy be? Mm-hmm. Well, it would be obviously former Governor Felix Camacho. So,
and you've seen like some of the pictures on social media. Yeah. You see all the Republican, bigwigs all standing together taking pictures.
Right. And that,
like, okay, who's going to run?
There's a purpose for that, right? They take these pictures and they put them on a WhatsApp and they spread like wildfire, right? And then we end up talking about them. But the one you're talking about was the one with former Governor Eddie, former Governor Joe Maulet, former Governor Felix Camacho, right? I mean, those big. Was there another one?
Then may have been like senatorial.
Right, some of the senators, probably Senator Moylan.
But
right?
to see those three, it's like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
What is happening?
But you know what? What I think is interesting is when you can see those three. I mean, they're basically like the Mount Rushmore of Republicans on Guam, right? But what's after them? And is it going to be with the Republican Party? Okay, we're not going to run. If we're running Felix, we're just going to keep trying to run Felix and Eddie, right? That's what I think. I think that it's clear the Republican Party has to like grow more of their candidates, right? We'll see. It's going to be good. It's going to be juicy. Just go register to vote, though, because if you guys don't register to vote, the people who are going to decide this election are the people who have their hands in the pot, meaning the political players. You know what I mean?
And I just got another picture, actually, just now.
Oh, wow. Well, as we speak.
As we speak. It's
what is it?
Governor Calvo, Phil Flores, former Republican Party chairman, and Governor Camacho. I'll send it to you. You probably
I think I saw this one, yeah.
I don't know how long ago this was.
I think they had a lunch. Okay, so what I heard, they had a lunch, and Governor Camacho basically was like, hey, Governor Eddie, would it be cool? I'm kind of thinking about running. And then I heard Governor Eddie was like, yeah, go for it.
Could you imagine if those two ran together?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who would be governor, lieutenant governor. But
right, yeah. Maybe they could do like a co-governor thing. But I think it's good because I think Adelup has really been sitting pretty. I feel like they've really suffered from a lack of competition.
But you remember when when COVID came to Guam, when it first got here, we were talking about, gosh, why doesn't the governor bring in all the former governors, come together and come up with a plan? And I think it was Governor Calvo and maybe even Governor Camacho when Shawn interviewed him, talking about we're looking at two different disasters here, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at the responses. The response, economic recovery, while at the same time we should be working on COVID response.
We talked about doing that on the show. We were like, hey, what if...
Get all the former governors.
Yeah, we said, well, what if we had like a gubernatorial summit? Do you think they would actually get in the same room, even if it's like Zoom?
I'll tell you what, though, guys, that definitely ain't going to happen now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, and what kind of like one of the things that I'm not saying, it was our doing, but one of the things we were really talking about was how Lou and Josh, Governor Lou, Lieutenant Governor Josh, had this whole institution working for them, this institution named former Governor Carl Gutierrez, right, who'd been through a bunch of disasters. And I remember we were really saying, hey, this is a huge disaster. You got this, two-term former governor.
That was a bombshell when they announced that. I
basically
remember that.
Just collecting a paycheck, right? Why don't they put him in the game? And they did, and the rest is history. Whether or not it turned out the way, we or you guys wanted it to, I don't know. But he's definitely more active. I'll say that. Shawn, how you doing, man? He's listening intently. I thought.
I'm just listening and enjoying the conversation.
Right. Thank you, my friend. You teach us over at University of Guam, kids. So if you're signing up, I know some of you guys are signing up for new semester or something.
I think they're all done with the signing up, so the spring's underway. I teach fundamentals of communication, CO210.
There you go. And I feel like I know some people who should enroll in your class.
You should take my class, man. Take my class.
Refresher. Thank you, Shawn. Bye for real now. Bye for real. Okay. There you go. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, especially since, like I said, Governor Lou and Lieutenant Governor Josh have been kind of walking heavy, right? You know? And now that we've got this specter, I mean, the specter of former Governor Calvo has kind of been there, but when you have former Governor Camacho coming out in the paper saying, yeah, I'm really considering it, I think that kind of ramps it up. And, you know, I want to see what it does to the governor and lieutenant governor, right? I feel like competition's good. Maybe it'll force them to get their butts in gear. 7:30, we're going to take a quick break, and we're coming back with Senator Jim Moylan right here on the